you everyone for joining, and let's get started. So again, if you are joining for the first time, my name is Jason Swan. I'm based here in Portugal. I work as really I have a few hats to wear, I suppose, but I am a specialist when it comes to the Portuguese Golden Visa. I think single-handedly I've submitted now more applications than any other human in Portugal. As a company, we've now submitted over 10% of the world's Golden Visa applications. We have maintained a 100% success rate as well. I've been living here, I'm down in the south, where it's slightly warmer, generally speaking as well, but I've been in the Algarve now for the past 4 years. Previous to Portugal, I was in Spain, in Malaga for 5 years, and previous to that, if you can't notice from my slight Manchester accent, I was over in the north of England before I headed over to Spain. And so I've kind of been there and done it myself. I've been through the bureaucracy of dealing both with Spain and Portugal, but I'm also a qualified financial planner. So if you have questions, not just about the immigration, but also about financial aspects as well, whether it be retirement planning or succession planning, or simply bringing you up to speed with the Portuguese tax law, please feel free to ask. We can always go through that on a one-to-one basis. And if you have any questions generally around living in Portugal, I'm relatively well traveled, I think. I've not explored too much, or not too often in Portugal, but yeah, I'm here. I'm a big fan of the Algarve, as you'll probably notice as I continue to talk about Portugal. But of course, we have Lisbon and Porto up in the north, where I'll actually be driving to tomorrow, funnily enough. But otherwise, that's me as far as what we offer as a company. I mean, Holborn, the company itself is actually a wealth management practice. We're now one of the largest wealth management practices in Europe. We have 26 offices globally. We manage now over 3 billion euros worth of assets between those offices. And about 6 years back, we started to specialize within the residency and the citizenship programs to help our clients achieve a second passport or a second home in different parts of the world. Of course, I'm here in Portugal, and that is my forte on this particular program, and we offer a service that is very much all-encompassing to help you get from where you are now right throughout the process to receiving the visa, right up until when you receive your passport as well, should you so wish to do so. So it all begins with really, like I said, today I'm going to give an overall crash course on the program and what to expect, which should give you an idea of if it's something of interest, if you may qualify for it, and if those answers are both yes, then the next step would be to book a meeting to go through more specific detail where we can run through personalized costs, questions, and any personal circumstances that you may have. But once we do that, should you want to begin the process, once you have selected how you wish to qualify for the visa, we will help provide the tax number, which is step number 1, tax numbers, should I say. I will help with the establishment of your Portuguese bank account, which will be needed as well. We shall do all the document collection that's needed for the family's visa applications. And yeah, overall, we manage everyone that's involved. So as part of the process, there will be a bank manager. There will be a fund manager, potentially. There will be, of course, AIMA, the immigration office. There'll also be the tax office as well for the tax declarations. So we are here as, you could kind of say I'm the project manager, if you will, but we're here to hold your hand right throughout and hopefully keep you entertained as best as we can through what can be, quite an involved process, really, applying for a visa. So other than that, if you get a chance, please type my name into Google. Is the best reference that I can give you. You'll see lots of content online from myself. You'll see a raft of awards that we've won, both within the citizenship industry, but also in the financial services sector as well. And you'll also see pop up on most slides the contact email address as well. So if there's any questions you don't want to post publicly or in this particular session, you're very welcome to email us directly, and we'll come back to you as soon as possible. And we're going to focus on Portugal, of course, this evening. But for those that are maybe not set just on Portugal, you may be interested to know that it's not the only route to Europe. Also internationally, we offer a range of different investment programs, which, depending on the country, can result in various advantages, whether it be a second home or a new tax residency, a retirement plan, or some kind of plan B. But if you do have any questions on other programs outside of Portugal, again, feel free to ask. And lastly, yeah, if you do want to subscribe to the free WhatsApp channel, you'll see a few QR codes from me this evening. So if you have your phone on hand, you'll be able to kind of get quick access to some of the links that you'll see in this evening's presentation. But there is a WhatsApp channel where we try to keep all the latest government and law changes in mind, and also any other relevant updates as well. Should you not be able to wait till the next update, which will be in September, you can keep up to date on a more regular basis there as well. And also the YouTube channel. More and more people now are seeking video advice. So you shall see me on YouTube from the beginning of this year, where also you'll see a copy of this evening's presentation uploaded as well over the coming days. So yeah, without further ado, let's get stuck in. So let's start with the basics. What is the Golden Visa? It is very much a VIP pass for Portugal. The Golden Visa allows investors to live, work, or simply retire to Portugal without any restrictions. It is a 2-year visa, and you can renew that permission every 2 years for as long as you like. And after a period of 5 years has elapsed, you can then apply for permanent residency, designed for investors that are not necessarily looking to move right now, but are perhaps thinking of a plan B for the future. I keep hearing the plan B term a lot over the past 12 months, since around about November, actually, last year, come to think of it. I don't know what happened in November last year in the US, but plan B seems to be the buzzword since around that time. But whether it's a plan B or a retirement plan, a change of tax status, it is a very non-committal, a very flexible visa where you can continue to live where you are now, but still apply for the European passport, in 5 years' time. Even if you don't want to move to Portugal, perhaps you want to head over to Italy or Spain or France for that matter. Again, once you have that European passport, you're then able to reside in any of those countries as well. So yeah, lots up for grabs, but yeah, it is by quite some distance the most popular citizenship program of all those available in Europe. It's been around now since 2012. It does quite regularly change from time to time. The laws and the requirements have changed a few times now over recent years, but it's still very consistent. The government has recently changed in Portugal, and they're very pro Golden Visa. Fortunately, we should see the Golden Visa for some time to come. We have had a few moments in time where we thought the program may come to a close. It may still happen at some point, but at the moment, it is very much open and business as usual. So there it is. And if you do hold the Golden Visa, you get access to all the benefits of being a Portuguese citizen, which include, of course, being able to live in Portugal, first and foremost. I don't think you probably don't need any more encouragement than being able to live in Portugal. But if that isn't enough for you, then you do get access to Portuguese healthcare, free of charge, may I add, as well. So again, I have some clients that have invested exclusively just to get the healthcare compared to paying, for private treatment back home. Also, European education as well for the family, whether it be for children or others. And of course, some favourable tax treatment as well, which we'll come on to shortly. But for new residents, you may find that you have a complete tax exemption for 10 years on certain overseas income as well. So yeah, the current government is still very much committed to the Golden Visa program. They're very pro immigration, pro overseas investment, and these are some of the incentives offered for those that are wanting to invest into Portugal of course, the benefit of the country to be rewarded with those perks. Geography isn't my strong topic, but I'll give you a quick overview on Portugal. I'm very often surprised when we invest with clients and they've never actually been to the country as well. And they say, where is the Algarve? I had a client the other day thought the Algarve was the company that they was invested into. But I'm down in the south in Albufeira, where it's typically a little warmer. Lisbon, of course, is the capital, which is almost like a completely different country to the Algarve. And then Porto is right up in the north, and you can get from the south to the north in around about 5 hours drive. Portugal is not a huge country. And of course, those are the three most popular destinations, if you will. But likewise, you may head to live inland, perhaps on a vineyard or on a farm. Who knows? But again, the Golden Visa isn't a visa that requires you to have an address in Portugal. You don't need to decide. You don't even need to decide you're going to move to Portugal, never mind where you're going to live, because it is very much it is a permission to be in Portugal without the commitment to actually live full time. But if you get a chance, yeah, come over. Obviously, the only time you'll need to travel to Portugal as part of the visa process will be for the biometrics appointment. Up until that point, everything is done remotely. So it's just a one-day trip. But if you get a chance, explore the island and see where you would want to live if that's your intentions before setting down the anchor. And now coming back to the program itself. So there's currently 5 ways to qualify for this Golden Visa. The first and perhaps most involved is the option to create jobs in the country. And if you wish, you can set up a business here. You can expand a business here. And as long as you create 10 jobs, you will be rewarded with Portugal's Golden Visa. Option number 2 and 3 is to make some form of donation. You can make a donation of 500,000 euros, to the research activities of Portugal. You can donate 250,000 euros to the national arts, if you're feeling generous. And options 4 and 5 is a selection of investment of some kind, generally broken down into 2 categories. The first is some form of venture capital fund or investment fund that meets a certain criteria set by the government, or the option to invest directly into a Portuguese company on the basis that that company will maintain or generate new jobs as a result of your investment. Property investment was removed from the program back in 2023. I think that's quite common knowledge now, but just in case you was wondering, that was removed a couple of years back, but still 5 active categories for you to choose from. Now, as far as who can apply for the visa, so to answer the question, do you qualify? The criteria is actually very simple. And as long as you don't already have a European passport, that is the first box ticked. If you do already have a European passport, then I suppose you may log out, really, because you don't need the Golden Visa because you already have access to Europe. But assuming that isn't already in place and you have a clean criminal record, it doesn't have to be squeaky clean. We have had successful applications for clients that have had misdemeanors in the past, DUIs, and misdemeanors that have happened in a younger life, but in the main, it's got to be relatively clean criminal record. You have to make an eligible investment in Portugal, again under the criteria which we'll cover shortly. And the worst part of this deal is to force yourself to come to Portugal for 14 days every 2 years. So as long as you can do that, as long as you can travel for just 14 days every 2 years, that will suffice to qualify and maintain the visa and be able to renew the visa for as many times as you like. There aren't any other requirements. So unlike other visa routes to Portugal, there isn't the requirement to become tax resident here. There's no requirement. There's no age restriction, should I say. There's literally nothing else. Invest in line with the government's proposals, travel to Portugal for 14 days every 2 years, and you're pretty much good to go. So that's the criteria. As far as family members, so the applications are structured with one main applicant, and that main applicant can include as many dependent family members as they wish. And a dependent family member can either be their spouse, married or unmarried is fine, as long as we can show that you live at the same address. Parents above the age of 65 are automatically assumed as dependents in Portugal. And children also up to the age of 21 can be included, again, who are automatically assumed dependent in Portugal. If you have children above the age of 21, they may still be included as long as we can show some proof of dependency along the lines of further education, kind of, shall I say, proof of enrollment into further education, financial dependency, and also for parents as well. You know, if they are dependent, they can be added if below the age of 65. And lastly, we can change who is the main applicant as well. So if you're thinking maybe that your children are way over and above the age of 21, but you happen to be maybe over the age of 65, you know, often we can change the main applicant to be perhaps your son or your daughter, which allows you to be their dependents and include them above the age of 21 and their children as well, your grandchildren, perhaps. You can also include both sides of the family as well. So of the main couple, if you have, you know, you can have both sides, both parents as well. And yeah, of course, as many people as you can include on the same application gives everyone access to those benefits of the healthcare system and the education system and the right to stay, of course, in Portugal. So there you go. That's everything that you need to know about family members. Again, I'm going at a relatively fast pace. Hopefully I'm not too fast, but if I do miss anything, you know, feel free to drop questions in the Q&A. I can see there's been some questions submitted. Thank you for those that have come in so far. We shall certainly come up to those shortly. As an overview on the process, it's a bit of a busy slide. This is more kind of what's happening behind the scenes from point A to point Z. But once we've done an initial meeting and you want to start the process, we will begin again with the application for your tax numbers, which are namely your NIF numbers. I'm not actually sure what NIF stands for. I should find out. It's definitely a Portuguese word, and my Portuguese, sadly and embarrassingly, is pretty much non-existent, I'm afraid to say. But NIF will do for now. And once we have your NIF, we will open the bank account in Portugal. Now, the bank account is the part that takes the longest. With some banks, it can take up to 8 weeks, but we will apply for that as we begin the process. And whilst we wait for the bank account to be open, we'll start to gather all the documents that we need for your application. Those can vary depending on your personal circumstances, but in the main, you know, things like copies of passports, proof of address, criminal record certificates as well will be needed, birth certificates potentially for children. And some of these documents do need to be apostilled as well before we collect them as part of your application. But we'll walk you through all that at the time. All being well, if no delays with the documents or the bank opening, we'll aim to have that done within 3 months from starting the process. As soon as the bank account is open, you're free to transfer the investment money to your Portuguese bank account. And then with the assistance of the attorney, you will then transfer into the investment and submit your application. Or should I say, the attorney will submit your application at that time. And it's at that point, the submission of the application, that the clock will begin to tick, the 5-year clock to citizenship. And it's also from that date as well that whatever laws are in place as of that day needed in Portugal, and you'll be notified with a bit of notice as to when the appointment is. The appointment will likely be in the capital of Lisbon, and we will accompany you on the day to make sure that you're well prepared. We'll help with translation, of course, and try and keep you entertained, really, because it's a pretty boring day with AIMA, but it is a very important day, and it's one that we don't want to go wrong. So yes, we will be there to make sure that all goes to plan. They'll take your fingerprints and your photo, and shortly thereafter, we can expect to receive your visa card, which looks a little bit like this one here. At the bottom, in case you was wondering, it's not actually golden. I always think maybe I was the only person that actually thought it was golden many years ago, but it looks like any other visa, of course. But that's what to expect. And then we begin the path to citizenship. And before I go through that, actually, the visa card, for clarity, is that is what gives you permission to live in Portugal. Okay, and whilst you have that visa, you can still travel into other parts of Europe, but you'll have the same restrictions as what you have now on other countries. It's only Portugal that you'll have full access to with the visa card. And it's when you receive the passport that you then have, well, basically those restrictions are lifted for the rest of Europe as well, and then you can live in any European country. And this is what we then work towards. Should you wish to, you may not be interested in other countries, but it's very much there as an option. And as a quick recap, again, it will take around about 3 months for us to submit your application. As a guide, I mentioned an update on processing times. It is difficult to say exactly how long it will take to receive the visa at this moment in time. The fastest we have seen it this year is 6 months. We had a case submitted in February, it was approved in April, and the whole family was booked in for the biometrics in July. Very fast turnaround time, and other applications have taken longer. On average, and to kind of try and set expectations, we would say to expect around 12 to 18 months for new applications at this stage. On the back of recent improvements from AIMA as well, there's a significant increase in the number of staff working with AIMA. The government has made a number of changes with regard to the online system as well to help with processing times, but that's where I would set your expectations at the moment. Before I forget as well, I do actually have it in writing now from AIMA that if you can't wait that long to get the visa, if you want to move to Portugal as soon as you've submitted your application, then you can do that. You can move to Portugal as soon as you have submitted your application, which is only 3 months. We do need to do a bit of work to have that granted, but as long as we can prove the submission of the visa and you being in Portugal, you can extend your stay up until when the visa is issued, courtesy of AIMA. But other than that, like I say, we'll expect the visa around 12 to 18 months. The visa will last them for 2 years when we do the first renewal, for another 2 years. We'll then do a second renewal around year 5. And around that same time, we'll then apply for your Portuguese passport and or your permanent residency in Portugal on the basis that you have kept yourself out of any trouble and maintained a clean criminal record in Portugal, and more I suppose more difficult, is that a word? More of a challenge, I think, than keeping a clean criminal record is, of course, learning some Portuguese as well. You will need to pass an A2 language exam or prove a minimum number of hours study. If you don't want to take the test, there is a way you can just do the study, which is 150 hours. Either way, we'll get you the certificate that you need. And as long as we have that, we can then apply for your passport. And that's mission complete. That is it. That is it. That is the route to European freedom, as it were. And once you have that citizenship, you can then live in any European country. You can then travel visa free to over 190 countries worldwide, which I think for the majority of the nationalities listening at the moment, we kind of already have that. I think the majority of registrations from the US and from the UK, we do have, fortunately, visa-free travel to most of the world, but some nationalities don't have that luxury. But either way, that is it. That is mission complete. So Thank you again. Thank you for submitting your questions in. I hope that is okay so far, and I've not been talking too fast. Again, if I've missed anything or you want more detail on any of these slides, just drop me an email and we shall do so. But now moving on, what I'll do, again, thank you for your questions. I've got also quite a lot of questions submitted from before we started as well. We shall come on to those. How are we doing for time? We're on past. We're okay. We're on time. Let's get through a few more slides and then we'll jump on to some questions. So let me run you through. So as far as the qualification routes, so the job creation, setting up a business is not something that I'm going to cover this evening. If you want advice on setting up a business and creating jobs, again, send an email, goldenvisa@holbornassets.com, and we shall guide you accordingly. The donation route is pretty much what it says on the tin. There isn't a lot of information really to talk to you about making a donation, but again, if that is the route that you wish to go down, we can provide you with a list of projects that you can donate into as part of the service. But this evening we're going to cover off what requires a little bit more information, which is of course how to qualify with an investment. So there are 4 rules for an investment fund to qualify. 4 rules and 1 best practice, if you like. The first, so there are tens of thousands of investment funds in the universe. However, there is only a very small list of funds that meet the criteria of the Portuguese government to get a golden visa. And the first rule is that the fund has to be regulated and approved in Portugal by the Portuguese Securities Commission, which is called the CMVM. Again, another very difficult to pronounce Portuguese sort of words there, so please don't ask me what they stand for, but the CMVM will do for now. And you will see a notification of the CMVM on regulated funds domiciled in Portugal. The second rule, the fund may not invest directly or indirectly into any kind of real estate, which was a change that came into effect back in 2023. The fund must invest at least 60% of its capital into Portugal as well. So, for example, you couldn't have a Portuguese fund that tracks the US stock market. Likewise, you couldn't have an American fund that invests into Portugal. It needs to be a Portuguese fund that is also investing at least the majority of the capital into Portugal. And the minimum subscription into said fund is €500,000. Now, as long as it meets those 4 rules, it will qualify, and the reward will be, of course, the golden visa. And the best practice is the last one, really, is just to remember that in order to renew your visa, you have to maintain a qualifying investment. And best practice is to maintain the investment that you choose until you've actually got the passport physically in your hand, just in case of any delays or if any additional renewals are needed, or if you just really couldn't pick up Portuguese and you needed a bit more time. It's important just to make sure you remain eligible to renew your visa. But once you have the passport or the permanent residency, there's no further investment requirements, at which stage that is when you would sell the investment and take the capital back to then invest however you wish, or to purchase your new home perhaps, or however you see fit at that point. But that's the rules. That's all we need. That's the shopping list when reviewing investment funds to choose from. This is just some general housekeeping, really. I often say that if you was to take the golden visa out of the equation, I think for most, it's fair to say that you probably wouldn't be looking to invest €500,000 into Portugal. And there's a few reasons why that is, but the Portuguese financial system is not quite as robust as the likes of the US or the UK. And although certainly when we're talking about investments for wealth management clients, we often have exposure to Europe and perhaps a little bit in Portugal. But you are going to be putting the full investment sum into some form of Portuguese fund. And it's important that you have a clear understanding of what that fund is before you jump in 2 feet first to that investment. Now, first thing to check, obviously, is of course the security of your capital. Over recent years, I've been asked for my opinion on different wild and wacky investment structures that clients have come across that they've seen on the internet. The two wildest examples that come to mind is investing into a theme park. One client asked me about once. They said they've seen something about investing into a new theme park. Another one about investing into a movie production in Portugal as well. So there's a new film being released, which again would qualify as a venture capital fund, but of course carries with it an incredibly high level of risk. If you are a movie buff, or you're a theme park expert, then perhaps you can assess that risk in more detail. But just because an investment qualifies for the visa and it's approved under the government's requirements isn't to say that it's perhaps something that you would want to invest into, or has the risk appetite that you'd be comfortable with. But the general message being that always be clear on the security of your capital. What happens if the world turns upside down? What happens if any worst case scenarios were to happen? Check also the length of time that the capital is tied up for. Actually about 50% of the funds that would qualify for the visa actually have a tie-in period, whereas there would be penalties to take the money out for a period much longer than what you need the investment for. So if you do want to be able to take the money back out when you have the passport, naturally, you want to be able to, you don't want to be paying penalties at that point. So it's important to check. Fees as well. Portuguese funds, by comparison to the likes of the US, can certainly look expensive. You'll often see more fees, anything from setup fees, management fees, exit fees. There are some funds that don't have any fees. There's others that are exceptionally expensive and not always justified. I personally don't mind paying fees as long as they are justified. But most importantly is to make sure you know what they are. As part of my service, any funds that you do like the look of, the first thing that we'll do is download all the fact sheets, all the brochures, all the prospectus for that investment, and I'll be able to go through the key facts with you so that you've got a clear understanding of exactly what the fees are and so on before you start the process. But otherwise, just some general housekeeping as well. If you are in the US, be mindful that there is additional reporting back to the States if you have an asset outside of the US. Not all investment funds are FATCA compliant, which again is important to check as well as a US national. But otherwise, like I say, these are some of the topics. These are the facts that we should gather during our one-to-one discussions, so that you understand what is out there and what what's involved. But otherwise, there's no restrictions on the industry that you invest into. These are some of the more commonly requested industries, or popular sectors, should I say. So if you have any personal preferences, then you invest however you see best. And as a snapshot of what the Portuguese fund spectrum looks like, again, a very kind of bird's eye view of some of the points I mentioned there. That again, you can choose just one fund, or you can split the money between a number of funds, as long as you meet the minimum fund requirement. Sorry, the fund's minimum capital requirement, which with some funds is 100,000, others 250, some 500, but few and far between. You can split the capital up as long as the total investment is over 500,000. That is fine. The funds, as I mentioned before, they come in all different shapes and sizes, from very low risk funds to exceptionally high risk venture capital funds. Tie-in periods can be anything from no tie-in period at all up to, again, there's one or two funds that I've seen which tie up for up to 14 years. Setup fees or subscription fees can be from no fee at all up to a maximum of 3%, depending on the fund manager. The same for the annual management fees as well. And of course, performance varies. Just like the world of investment funds, the return is very, very much often driven by the appetite for risk that you wish to take. More adventurous funds within Portugal can target over 15% per year. Naturally, they are much more likely to go down in value as well as up in value and vary over the investment term, but target an average higher return. There are some fixed investment funds that qualify as well. So if you don't want to have the headache of tracking the Portuguese stock markets over the next 5 or 6 years, you can just know exactly what it is that you're going to get back. An average return for something like that is currently about 4% per year. And yeah, there are some funds which have additional security as well. So again, quite few and far between, but there are some examples where funds have additional asset-backed protection or tangible collateral held as extra security for the investor as well. So again, all these things, all the information that we'll gather during one-to-one discussions, but hopefully that gives you a good idea of what the spectrum is out there in Portugal at the moment. At Holborn, we're not tied to any fund manager. That as the investor, you're free to invest in as many or whichever funds that you so wish. Naturally, we will make sure it qualifies for the program. But again, we can have those discussions on a one-to-one basis as to what investment funds you'd like to invest into. Current capital requirement as of today's date, minimum capital you can qualify for the visa with at the moment is €250,000, which is, of course, the donation route. Lowest investment route, minimum investor capital needed is 325,000. In that example, there is 500,000 invested, of course, to qualify for the visa. But it's an example of a different type of investment that actually pays an upfront return rather than an annual interest. So you get a big lump sum paid up front, which is basically 6 years return all in one go, which can be used towards the 500,000 to be invested for the visa. And there are also some loan facilities available as well with different providers. So as of today's date, you can make a profitable investment with 325 or a donation of 250. Again, hope that's nice and clear. Any specific questions on that? Again, drop me an email or better yet, of course, book some time in and we'll go through some more specifics. But for now, that is the program. We've looked at the investment criteria. I've covered pretty much everything that you need to know, hopefully, so far. Just a few more slides to finish. I promised, again, to give an update on the government changes with the citizenship timeline, also on the tax incentives as well. And then we'll get stuck into some questions. So if you've submitted a question, great. I shall pick up on that shortly. If you haven't just yet, feel free to think of anything I've missed and drop it in there to pick up shortly. So, right, 45 minutes in. Hopefully I don't send anyone to sleep talking about tax, but there'll be some people, I'm sure, with eagle eyes on this slide at the moment. So currently Portugal has a tax regime called NHR. That abbreviation, I do know what it stands for because it's actually an English term and it stands for non-habitual residency. And should you decide to become tax resident in Portugal, I do emphasize that because Portugal is a little different as far as tax residency. Just because you have a visa or a passport does not make you tax resident in Portugal. In order to do that, you have to physically spend over 183 days a year in the country. Unless you do that, you will not become tax resident in Portugal. However, if you do, or when you do in the future, and if you become tax resident, you may be able to apply for the NHR 2.0. A slightly watered down version of the first NHR program, which was withdrawn a year or two back. But for certain professional lines of work, you can apply for a flat rate of income tax in Portugal, which is 20% on any self-employed or Portugal-sourced employment income. So that will be relevant if you plan to work in Portugal, or perhaps if your children perhaps look to work in Portugal. For those that are not working, the other plus point of the NHR is that overseas income may be potentially entirely exempt from that 20% drops down to 0% for 10 years. And that includes capital gains from abroad, dividends from abroad, interest from abroad, rental income. all completely exempt from Portuguese taxation for 10 years if you qualify for an HR. Now, again, it is important to kind of highlight that this is only talking about Portuguese taxes. It isn't to say that you may not be liable for tax in your home country, but it is applicable for Portugal. And Portugal does have a tax treaty in place with most first world countries, which will avoid any double taxation. But just to clarify that this is relevant just to Portuguese taxes. To qualify, you have to be working within a certain field or a certain high value role, as the government refers to. Or you can structure your Golden Visa investment in a manner to be involved with a startup, with a certified startup program, with around about 100,000 of the 500 that has to be invested for the visa. If 100 goes into a certified startup program, again, it's another potential way that you can qualify for an HR. So yeah, quick overview there. But the last update on this is that the government is currently discussing with quite some intent to actually offer these benefits to all Golden Visa holders. It isn't something that's approved just yet. It is very much in early discussion, but we are quietly confident that we may see additional tax benefits, regardless of whether you work or not, or what industry that you're involved with. But just as a Golden Visa card holder, that when you get to Portugal, you hand the card in and you'll be granted a 10-year tax exemption on your overseas income. So more to follow on that, but that is in the pipeline. But for now, there is NHR 2.0 and potentially a kind of a blanket tax regime for Golden Visa holders in the future. So there you go. There's my tax section. And lastly, before we open up for some questions, the big question, the most popular question at the moment is, of course, regarding the timeline change from 5 to 10 years. So very similar to, I remember back in February 2023, I was in Seville at the time, and I was watching Manchester United play Seville, I think in the European Cup, when we used to qualify for European competitions. My phone started ringing off the hook because it was published in many media outlets that the Golden Visa program had been closed. And I had a lot of worried clients at the time, thinking that it was all going pear-shaped. 10 months later, after many more discussions, ultimately the program didn't close. The publications were incorrect, and it caused a lot of unnecessary panic. And the point of the story being is that, first of all, to understand that this is only a proposal at this moment in time. Nothing has changed as far as the timeline to citizenship as of this moment in time. So it is only a proposal. Nothing has been approved. But I will explain what is being discussed, what that proposal includes. And in short, the potential changes include the timeline increasing from 5 to 10 years, firstly, which is the biggest change. There'll also be an additional test to do in addition to the language exam. You'll need to kind of prove that you understand the culture of Portugal and be a little bit more involved with becoming kind of a Portuguese citizen. The other important discussion as well is also around the timeline for when the clock starts to tick for the passport. Now, at the moment, that 5 legal process, and before any laws come into effect, the timeline moving forward is really now, well, we won't know anything now until September. There's going to be a parliamentary vote in September. Did I say December then? September, to talk about the proposal. And if history is anything to go by, it will be debated. There'll be one side of the room that will be saying it's a terrible idea. There'll be another side of the room saying it's a fantastic idea, and they'll hash that out. And then there'll be some amendments. There'll likely be amendments proposed, but we'll see how that goes. But the next step after kind of passing the parliamentary vote in whatever shape or form that it finishes will be then to pass that to the President of Portugal, either to pass that proposal or to cancel it. Or the third option is he can refer that proposal to the Constitutional Court, which again is what happened in previous years, back in 2023, back in 2018 as well. And part of obviously the current proposal is that the timeline is going to increase for all visa holders, which is a direct conflict to the constitutional law to retrospectively affect applications previously submitted. And this again is a topic that was raised in 2018 and 2023. Ultimately, it was very quickly established that new laws cannot retroactively apply to previous residents and investors. So that we expect the same again. It was referred to. Sorry, there was another proposal discussed regarding family reunification a week or two back as well, which again was referred to the Constitutional Court, the 75% of which was rejected from those proposals. So we have a long way to go on this just yet. I would take it with a bit of a pinch of salt, but there is a very good chance that that timeline will increase. We just need to wait now to see exactly who it will apply to, and if there's going to be a transitional period, which is often the case. And after that period, we will then see final changes come into written law. This is not a fast process. Portugal, hope there's no Portuguese listening when I say this, but Portuguese bureaucracy is not like what you would perhaps expect in certain other countries. It can be very slow, can be everything is kind of a kind of one gear lower in Portugal. So we don't see these things happen overnight. But we may see it happen this year. We may see it come into effect next year. I would be quite surprised if any laws changes came in this year, but we shall. But that's it from me. I'm going to come on some questions. Hopefully that was helpful. I've just put up on the screen a bit of a thank you for joining the webinar this evening. I mentioned before that as part of the citizenship program, you will need to learn some Portuguese. Myself included in that. I can actually apply for my passport next year if I could understand Portuguese. So I think I'll be jumping on a language course in the near future myself. But for applications submitted before the end of this month, I think we've got a couple of weeks left just yet. So for any applications submitted before the end of August, sorry, that's not submitted, but what applications that we begin the process for, you can ask for a complimentary Portuguese course of lessons so that you can pass the A2 language exam complimentary from ourselves. But otherwise, I think that's everything. Oh yeah, just a nice handsome picture of me there explaining the importance, of course, to speak to an expert. Don't jump in 2 feet first to anything really, or believe necessarily all what you see online. Gather the facts. I'll provide everything in writing following an initial discussion once I understand your plan of action, and you'll have everything that you need to digest thoroughly and accurately as well. But there you go. We've done okay. That is everything that you need to know about the Golden Visa in 56 minutes. Hopefully I managed to cover all that information in a timely manner, and everyone all stuck in okay. Just before I jump into some questions, if you would like to book a meeting, you are very welcome to do so. You can request a meeting with the QR code on the screen. Hi there, Amy, and book some time in. You drop me an email with any questions. If you do want to. If you want to watch this presentation over and over again to help with your knowledge, you're very welcome to subscribe to the Golden Visa Guy on YouTube, and we'll be uploading the presentation over the next few days. I'm actually driving to Porto tomorrow. There might be a slight delay with that, but hopefully come Monday, we should be good to go. Thank you very much, everyone. For further information or any questions that you have, you can now log on to www.jsprive.com, where you'll find all the up-to-date news and latest information that you need on moving to Portugal. Thank you much for watching, and we'll speak to you soon.